couple of chairs for you guys. If you want to sit, soak anything up while we're here. Yeah, you're very welcome.
Okay, so in this packet,
A couple of chairs for you. You can sit in your doorway or squeeze out here, whatever you want to do.
Product sheet with the bundle, the dog price is a little later. Just have some
What's up, Mama D?
Again, our vendors at intermission, if you guys have time, are in bay 2. That's Norwex. iFlex is in bay 3, sorry. And then Salad Master and City Cave are in the classroom. So make sure you guys go visit all of our vendors. And then if anybody's ever eaten any of the Yum desserts in our refrigerator, that's Rachel. She's up front. She's amazing. Everything she makes is amazing. So make sure you guys go visit everybody. Last thing, everybody pull out their cell phone. I know this is going to be painful. Take out your cell phone and put it on silent. Automatically on silent. Hi, Mama D.
And everybody's on mute.
Did everyone put their cell phone on silent?
Which is good most of the time.
Okay,
So you
so
lose your
when
phone and then you're
cell
like,
phone
crap.
rings during Dr. Brian's talk, I'm going to call it, he's going to call you out. And if
My
you
family
ever
group
call out
text
Dr.
goes off so
Brian-
much I have to.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Turn it up. All the way up.
Turn it up.
Turn it up.
What's up?
I was just telling people that you're going to call them out if their phone goes off because I had them turn it all of a sudden off.
So your front row is all, we'll turn it on.
Yeah. Okay, who's ready?
It will be you. Who let you sit in the front?
Okay, let's give a hand to Dr. Brian.
That's it? You ready? Okay. Good.
Do you want this up front?
Yeah. Yeah. All right, you guys ready?
No, you're totally fine.
Good. I got one yes. Everybody else is like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm just here. Simmer class. There we go. All right. So I'm going to start us off with a little video here. I want to set the stage for you on who's in this video. It's about a 4.5 minute video. The person speaking is Dr. Casey Means. Some of you may know who she is already. She's become wildly popular, her and her brother, for calling out some things that are happening in our society, in the medical industry, in the food industry, and so on. And to understand who she is and why her opinion and her knowledge is valuable, she graduated #1 at the top of her class at Stanford Medical. She then went on to start a 5-year residency at one of the most prestigious teaching universities for surgical study. She was 1 year away from graduating. She would have got a six-figure signing bonus anywhere in the country. She would have made multiple 6 figures for the rest of her life. And she said, we aren't helping people.
We are what?
We aren't helping people. And she walked away from all of that with her multiple 6 figures in student loan debt that she now has to pay back by herself, which probably would have been paid for if she'd have just finished 1 more year of her surgical residency. I hope you guys can grasp what that actually means. She took on hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, walked away from millions of dollars she would have earned in her career because she said, what we're doing isn't working. And this is her testifying that to Congress. I want you to pay very close attention to every detail that she states, the facts that she lays out, and all the different talking points, because every one of them is valid to what we're going to talk about today. Come on.
It's not an overstatement to say that I learned virtually nothing at Stanford Medical School about the tens of thousands of scientific papers that elucidate these root causes of why American health is plummeting and how environmental factors are causing it. For instance, in medical school, I did not learn that for each additional serving of ultra-processed food we eat, early mortality increases by 18%. This now makes up 67% of the foods our kids are eating. I took 0 nutrition courses in medical school. I didn't learn that 82% of independently funded studies show harm from processed food, while 93% of industry-sponsored studies reflect no harm. In medical school, I didn't learn that 95% of the people who created the recent USDA food guidelines for America had significant conflicts of interest with the food industry. I did not learn that 1 billion of synthetic pesticides are being sprayed on our food every single year. 99% of the farmland in the United States is sprayed with synthetic pesticides, many from China and Germany. And these invisible, tasteless chemicals are strongly linked to autism, ADHD, sex hormone disruption, thyroid disease, sperm dysfunction, Alzheimer's, dementia, birth defects, cancer, obesity, liver dysfunction, female infertility, and more, all by hurting our metabolic health. I did not learn that the 8 billion tons of plastic that have been produced just in the last 100 years, plastic was only invented about 100 years ago, are being broken down into microplastics that are now filling our food, our water, and we are now even inhaling them in our air. And that very recent research from just the past couple of months tells us that now about 0.5% of our brain are now plastic. I didn't learn that there are more than 80,000 toxins that have entered our food, water, air, and homes by industry, many of which are banned in Europe. And they are known to alter our gene expression, alter our microbiome composition and the lining of our gut, and disrupt our hormones. I didn't learn that heavy metals like aluminum and lead are present in our food, our baby formula, personal care products, our soil, and many of the mandated medications like vaccines, and that these metals are neurotoxic and inflammatory. I didn't learn that the average American walks a paltry 3,500 steps per day, even though we know, based on science and top journals, that simply walking 7,000 steps a day slashes by 40 to 60% our risk of Alzheimer's, dementia, type 2 diabetes, cancer, and obesity. I certainly did not learn that medical error and medications are the third leading cause of death in the United States. I didn't learn that just 5 nights of sleep deprivation can induce full-blown prediabetes. I learned nothing about sleep, and we're getting about 20% less sleep on average than we were 100 years ago. I didn't learn that American children are getting less time outdoors now than a maximum security prisoner. And on average, adults spend 93% of their time indoors, even though we know from the science that separation from sunlight destroys our circadian biology, and circadian biology dictates our cellular biology. I didn't learn that professional organizations that we get our practice guideline from, like the American Diabetes Association and American Academy of Pediatrics, have taken tens of millions of dollars from Coke, Cadbury, processed food companies, and vaccine manufacturers like Moderna. I didn't learn that if we address these root causes that all lead to metabolic dysfunction and help food and lifestyle patterns with united, strong voice, we could reverse the chronic disease crisis in America, save millions of lives and trillions of dollars in healthcare costs per year. Instead, doctors are learning that the body is 100 separate parts, and we learn how to drug, we learn how to cut, and we learn how to bill.
You have been lied to, you've been lied to, you've been lied to, you've been lied to. The FDA, the CDC, the AMA, the American Diabetes Association, Heart Association, Cancer Association, the federal government, and knowingly or unknowingly, your medical doctors have all lied to you. When the top graduate from Stanford, she's basically a genius. She'd be the smartest person in the room if she walked in here. Says, I learned jack about taking care of the health of the people who walk into my practice every day. So she divorced the medical system, said, I want nothing to do with it unless it's for acute crisis intervention. When she says that, we have to wake up to the reality of what is at play in our lives. At some point, you have to say, I'm done with the abusive relationship. I won't keep going back and getting fed bullcrap, because that's what happens. And this is why this is so important today. This is what's so crucial, is that if you don't have a significant shift in the way you think about your health, then today will be a waste of time. Today will be a fun experience. It was neat. I went, they had like some snacks, and there were some other people. I'm going to go get stretched and a massage, and I bought a product. And you'll go home, and in 6 weeks, your life will be exactly the same. And your health will be on the same trajectory as all the horrible stats that she just laid out. The system that we utilize every single day in America is completely broken. It's the number one cause of bankruptcy in America. I meet patients all the time who are worried about their budgets, yet the thing they do for health is run to the system that is guaranteed to bankrupt them the minute they get sick because it doesn't provide health. Some of what I'm going to say today is going to piss some of you off. Somebody's going to walk out here and go, I don't like that guy. I don't care. Because the facts are the facts are the facts. The truth doesn't care if you like it or not. It's just the truth. And whether or not you are willing to wrap your head around a different paradigm will be the difference in what your health looks like 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, or 6 years from now. You have to have a significant mindset shift. And I get it, it can be tough. Because I grew up in that system. I grew up just like she was explaining, just like most of you probably did. And so I want to help you really grasp that concept of what that looks like in real time for a family. So if you're willing to all play along with me for a couple of minutes, I want you to close your eyes. I promise nobody's going to throw anything at you or steal your purse. Just close your eyes. I promise we got the doors locked so you can't get in or out. Just kidding. So picture a young boy. He's 6, 7, 8 years old. School bus rolls up in front of his house out in the country. He gets off the school bus. He walks down his gravel lane road. It's about 100 yards long. Walks into an old white farmhouse. It's a beautiful day. He walks into the house. It's completely dark. Shades are all drawn. It's silent in there. Doesn't appear as if there's anybody in the house. Grabs himself a snack. Plops down in front of the TV, turns on afternoon cartoons. He's sitting there about 20 or 30 minutes enjoying his cartoons, and suddenly, on the wall. Jumps up, starts to run down the hallway towards his parents' house. The sound of someone vomiting profusely is coming from his parents' bedroom. His mother's incredibly sick. This is where she spends most of her time. This process proceeds year after year after year. Mom gets sicker and sicker and sicker. Gets to the point where she's on dozens of daily medications. She spends more time in the hospital or bed than anywhere else. And those medical bills keep racking up and racking up and racking up. Fast forward, that young boy's 12 years old. His family's headed for medical bankruptcy. So at 12 years old, that boy gets a job. Every day after school, he no longer gets off the bus and runs inside to watch cartoons. He gets taken to a neighboring farm where he'll work until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. Come home, take a shower, and get up and go to school the next day and do it all over again. Because without a paycheck from that 12-year-old boy, his family cannot buy groceries. His family can't pay the mortgage or the utility bill. And it's all for naught. Because ultimately the bankruptcy still happens, and his mother passes away at 57, having never met her grandchildren or even 2 of her daughters-in-law. You guys can open your eyes. That was my childhood. That was me with zero exaggeration. That is what happens in America when you don't understand real health. Everything that my mother was diagnosed with, everything that they cut, poisoned, and drugged her with, has those symptoms and diagnoses have walked into my office, and those patients have healed, and those things have been reversed. but it's only because they took action. If you don't change the way you think, then none of it will matter. Because it's the way we think that ultimately determines the way that we behave. And if we keep thinking, it's just a little bit of a toxin, it's just a few pills, it's just an occasional snack, and we justify all of our poor choices, or we justify that we didn't know any better. So once you sit here and you know better, then you have no choice but to try and do better. If we don't make a change in the way we think and view our health and the choices we make, therefore changing our habits, we end up in the exact same place. Does that make sense for everybody? So today is not about all doom and gloom. My hope for each and every single one of you is to give you hope, to inspire lasting change in your life. It is possible to be healthy and vibrant again. It is possible to feel good. It's possible to not hurt, to lose the weight, to gain your energy back, to live to be 100 to 120 years old, healthy and vibrant. But you have to understand what it takes. It takes a conscious effort because your body is beautifully and intricately made. It's this amazing self-healing, self-regulating, self-balancing organism that if it is kept free of things that would interfere with its natural ability to heal and be well, it will do just that. It will serve you well for an entire lifetime. And that's my hope for each and every one of you, to inspire changing your life so that, again, a month, a year, 5 years from now, we're talking about a different person with a different lifestyle and a different way that they view their life because they actually feel good about it again. Does that make sense to everybody? If that's something that you want, say aye. Aye. So we got to break the cycle of insanity, all right? If we keep doing the same things over and over again, we're hoping for a different result. That is what? That's insanity, all right? So we got to make some changes, and that's what I want for you today. So as we go through everything today, there's going to be a lot that I throw at you. And for some of you, it's going to be overwhelming. Raise your hand if this is your first workshop or seminar you've ever been to in our office. Raise your hand high. You should be really proud and happy. Yes, very good. Welcome, newbies. And Miss T for her second workshop.
Yeah, my second.
In how many years?
8.
I'm just teasing. Raise your hand if you've been to several, 2 or 3, at least 2 or 3. Keep your hands raised, raise them high. 4, put your hands down as I go. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, yeah. The reason I'm pointing that out is for those of you that have been to 0, this is your first one, it's your second or third or fourth. I can tell you, I look around the room at some of those patients that are raising their hand that this is my 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th workshop. And I can start rattling off some of the results that they've seen, some of the lifestyle changes that have occurred in their life and the results from that. So that's what I want for each and every one of you. So step 1, I would say the first commitment you should make is that you plug into another event in the next few months because we have these sorts of things quite regularly. So all about energy. What is pure energy? Okay. The goal is that, again, as I was saying, I have a vision for a society that's actually healthy and vibrant again, that's doing the things that they're called to, that's enjoying life to the fullest. And there's actually a single component to health that directly affects every other function in the body. It affects our immune system. It affects our energy levels. It affects the way we sleep. It affects whether or not we have proper hormones and fertility. It affects whether or not we've got energy and vibrance when we're up and about during the day. It affects the way that we feel, whether we've got all kinds of pain and inflammation in our body or we're functioning and healing at our best. And that thing is our energy production. And so when we produce good, clean, pure energy throughout our body, we allow the body to do all the things that it was intended to do by its design. And that's what we want. And so if we think about this, like if we look at if the video didn't set up the sad state of affairs that we're in, 90% of people who struggle to lose weight, right, which is a huge chunk of society, the weight loss industry is a multi-$100 million industry. They're selling, and what are they selling? They're selling more chemicals, like Dr. Casey was talking about, that'll suck that into shedding weight unnaturally. We're injecting all kinds of drugs into our system nowadays in the name of weight loss, but we're actually sacrificing our overall health and well-being. All this stuff that's out there right now, the Ozempics and what's the other one? There's 2 or 3 different ones. Wegovy, all this stuff, guys. The long-term effects of that are devastating. They're absolutely terrible. They cause, could spend 10 minutes listing off all the potential harms and long-term side effects. And for the people who say, I'm just going to take it for a little while, it'll just help me shed a few pounds, watch what happens when you try and get off of it. You need to get off of it as fast as possible. I watched a video. This lady, I was going to put it in the thing, but I didn't have time to get around to it because I just saw it like yesterday. This lady did a Facebook Live or whatever. She goes, I had no idea. I wanted to take it for a little while to lose a few pounds. She goes, I only took it for 6 months. And then she rattled off symptom after symptom after symptom after symptom after problem after problem after problem of what she was dealing with now that she stopped taking it. And of course, your only choice is to stop taking it. Because the longer you take it, the worse the problems become. But that's what we're doing. And so we've got 90% of people that have a metabolic imbalance, and we're throwing another log on the fire, hoping it will burn itself out. And it doesn't work. We got 88% of adult Americans have some form of metabolic dysfunction and have no idea. They don't realize that there's this metabolic imbalance that is an underlying root cause of what they're dealing with. Because as Dr. Casey said again in the video, what are we taught in medical school? When you go into your doctor, and this is what we're taught, consciously, subconsciously, directly, indirectly, right? You go to the doctor and he checks your heart, and he checks your lungs, and he checks your thyroid, and he checks your colon, and he checks your stomach, and your prostate, and you're a car. Well, we'll just remove that one. Maybe we'll put a new one in. Doesn't work that way. We check all these parts, and we're failing to look at the body as a whole. We compartmentalize, and we screw everything up when we do that. What do I mean by metabolic dysfunctions and you don't even know it? Well, this is a short list. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, obesity, diabetes, autoimmune conditions, thyroid dysfunction, PCOS, infertility, Cushing's disease, cancer, fatty liver, arthritis, chronic pain. Just a short list. Most people would look at a lot of those things and say, oh, I just have an autoimmune condition. I just have fertility issues. I'm just struggling to lose weight. My body doesn't process sugar well, etc., etc., etc. I've met so many people in my career, 12 years now, that I talk to them and go, how you doing with your health? Oh, I'm fine. Your paperwork said you're on 5 medications. Oh yeah, just the normal ones. What the hell does that mean? I'm 37, almost 38. I take 0. So tell me which ones I should be on. What would make me normal? High blood pressure? High cholesterol? Diabetes? Thyroid dysfunction? Fertility issues? These would be the quote-unquote normal. They're not normal. Just because something's become common doesn't mean it's normal. No one would argue that cancer is normal, but it's very common. We have to change the way we view and evaluate these things. What are some of the other symptoms, the warning signs that we deal with? Fatigue, again, thyroid dysfunction, abnormal appetite. Like how many people, I meet people all the time, I don't eat anything, I eat like a bird. Why can't I get rid of any of this weight? I eat nothing. There's a major metabolic dysfunction. Poor circulation, cold hands and feet, low libido, PMS issues, bloating, anxiety, depression, hair loss, brittle nails, insomnia, infertility, irritability, obesity. Again, we brush all these things off because I know 10 other people that have the same problem. If 10 other people jumped off a bridge, would you say, oh, it must be the right thing to do? Or we wouldn't do that. How do we get there? Standard American diet. It's full of unhealthy fats, sugars, ultra-processed food. They all destroy our metabolic function. They're completely unnatural. Most of it's synthetic at this point. They create things like insulin resistance, weight gain, high triglycerides, low HDL, which is our good cholesterol. So it creates this imbalance when you go and get your lipid panels and you've got high LDL, which is the quote-unquote bad, and low HDL, which is the quote-unquote good. And both of those are misnomers. They're both there for a reason. Neither one of them is good or bad. They just are what God designed for us to have. But they're out of balance. We got high blood pressure, elevated blood sugar. We're insulin resistant. These are all precursors to chronic disease. And it's all being contributed to in one fashion, in one part, by what we eat. Over 2/3 of Americans are now classified as overweight or obese. That's well over half the population. And they're only getting worse. That number continues to rise. In the year 99-2000, there was some research done. The CDC data said that 30.5%, so let's call it 30% of Americans were considered overweight or obese. Sorry, obese specifically, forgive me. By 2017, so 17, 18 years later, the number was 42.4%. So a 12% increase in 17 years. That was 8 years ago. What do you think the number is today? It's higher.
Yeah, they just added me to it.
That's why that's why you're here, T. We're gonna work on it. So much of that is our lifestyle. It's the food we eat. It's our sedentary lifestyle. We're chronically stressed out. All these things we're going to try and touch on today and help you get yourself moving in a much better direction. And then we try to do something about it, right? But we go like I'm going to do the just green juice diet for months on end. Great. It's good. I'd support you in that. Problem is, what happens when most people finish the green juice diet? What happens? They gain all their weight back. 95% of fad diets, if you lose, they've proven that most people, 100% of people who go hardcore at any diet for 6 months or more, like really committing to it, will lose weight. 95% of them will regain all that weight the first 6 months after they stop doing that specific diet. My point there isn't that I'm not saying we shouldn't, it's not about dieting, it's about changing your diet. Does that make sense? Dieting is a short-term thing. Changing your diet is a lifestyle change. I don't diet. I haven't in years. I just eat really clean. 90% of the time or better. I just consistently make good choices based on what I know to be true for my long-term health. And then we've got this other issue here recently where we've gone so far in the other direction. Like this body positivity. Hang with me on this for a second, okay? I don't want to swing the pendulum all the way in the other direction where we make you feel bad about the way that you look. But when we say things like, oh, big is beautiful, you are beautiful. You're God's creation. But big is also diabetic. Big also has no energy. Big also gets cancer more likely. Big dies young. So it's not about, oh, everybody's pretty the way that they are. I'm not here to make you feel bad about the way you look, but you've got to stand in front of the mirror and go, this isn't good. We've gone so far in the one direction where we just, if you, God forbid, if the wrong person walked through that door and heard me say what I just said, I'd get roasted on social media. He's a bigot, he's an a-hole, he's a jerk, he hates people, he's mean, he's rude. He tells the truth. Because love tells the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Doesn't sugarcoat the BS. The facts are the facts are the facts. We can either acknowledge the facts and do something about it, or we continue to try and live in ignorance where we just bury our head in the ground and act like it's not true. It won't happen to me. Right? What a wonderful self-preservation mechanism that we've got in our brains where we go, it won't happen to me. But unilaterally, if we look at the data, the statistics are not in your favor, that it won't happen to you. It's much more likely that it will if we don't make lasting changes. So, getting into it. So some people say things like, I have a slow metabolism, right? And there may be some level of truth to that. It's not necessarily that it's slow, it's that it's dysfunctional. The metabolism is not doing what it's supposed to do. It's this really amazing, complex process. And we really, really got into some like biochemistry, which I won't bore you with today. I don't want anybody to fall asleep. But it's often misunderstood. So the goal is to break it all down. It's this process of, again, in essence, most people understand it's taking food, turning it into energy, but how do we do that? And so everything we consume, from protein to fats, vitamins, minerals, everything gets turned into energy or heat. Your digestive system breaks down everything into the most basic, usable components, these literally individual cells of energy. The molecules, I mean, not cells. And so behind that is mitochondrial function. We're going to talk a little bit about that throughout the course of the day. Mitochondrial function is crucial to our energy production. And a lot of what we'll touch on today actually is known to create mitochondrial dysfunction. So if your mitochondria don't work, which is inside your cells, then you're not going to be able to produce the energy that that cell needs. So our body consists of 70 trillion cells, all of them having those mitochondria in it, which make energy. And depending on the role of the cell, whether it's skin or liver or brain, heart, kidney, lung, bone, etc., they have various amounts of mitochondria in them based on the energy required for that cell type to do its job. Does everybody make sense of that? Okay. So all the cells in your body are a little bit different. And so when there's these different interferences, we end up with a cell that can't do its job because it doesn't have the energy production that it needs. And what you have to understand is that if a cell can't do its job, it's now dysfunctional. Dysfunction is the precursor of all disease. Disease is the precursor to all your symptoms. And there is an important difference between what I said and what most people think. Dysfunction, precursor to disease, precursor to your symptom. Most people think I started feeling bad and then I found out I had heart disease, which just started last week when I started feeling bad. Most people think I went in for an annual physical, they ran some labs, I was feeling a little funky, they found out I have an autoimmune condition or a cancer or prediabetes or diabetes, and now I'm sick. No. You've been sick for a decade or more with dysfunction, and now it's come to the surface where you've got a symptom that you're aware of. Does everybody see the vast difference in the way we've thought before and the reality of the way our bodies operate? There has to be a dysfunction beneath the surface before we get a symptom. And in most cases, your body's so amazing and beautiful and can adapt so well, it will adapt to those problems for a very long time before it makes its way to the surface. And now your back's against the wall. 2 points of all this. If your metabolism is disrupted, disease is guaranteed to follow in some capacity, some form, and in many ways, or for many people, it's multiple forms. Once you have symptoms, you've already been sick for a very long time. If you've already got these symptoms, one thing that's important to understand, it's not too late. Because most of the things that we're talking about today are 100% lifestyle induced, changing your lifestyle will give your body the ability to heal and adapt and get back to normal. And that's the amazing thing about this. If you're willing to actually make the changes, you can see your body get back to normal again. So, starting off, basal metabolic rate, as we're talking about metabolism, this is an important thing to understand. So your basal metabolic rate is basically how much energy you need to sit there. How much energy does your body burn just sitting there in your chair doing basic things? Breathing, your brain functioning, your heart beating, your stomach potentially digesting if you've eaten anything yet today or drank anything, right? That actually makes up 70% of your total daily energy output. It's not the excess energy that we might put out when we're doing something physical, when we're exercising, when we're mowing the grass, when we're chasing after kids or grandkids, right? And the heart rate might go up a little bit. It's all of these basic things, circulation, cellular repair. And that's influenced by a lot of things. So the reason this is important, it's 70% of your total metabolic function is utilized just to sustain you sitting there like a bump on a log. If we can tap into that, and get that to be better, more efficient, more effective, right, then we've already won a big chunk of the battle. Does that make sense to everybody? So, it's influenced by a lot of things. Body size, body composition, your sex, your age. And why does this matter? Raise your hand if you've heard that muscle weighs more than fat. Guess what muscle requires more of then? Energy. Requires more energy just to sit there when you've got good muscle mass. So when you're working out, when you're lifting weights, when you're challenging your body to grow more lean muscle mass, which is not impossible no matter where you're at on the spectrum right now, just by adding a little bit more muscle mass, you're going to increase your basal metabolic rate. You're going to increase the amount of energy that your body has to output just to sit there, which makes it easier to maintain healthy metabolism, healthy weight, better energy, better sleep, etc. Does that make sense to everybody? So that is a crucial component to this whole thing. I mentioned a second ago, one of the things that requires energy is your digestion. So this is part of why we get tired after a big meal, right? Thanksgiving, right? It's like, oh. I'm going to eat, and the tryptophan that's in the turkey, that doesn't help. That'll put you to sleep. If you're having trouble sleeping, eat more turkey. That's my lesson for the day. Have a great day. No, I'm just kidding. What we eat requires a certain amount of energy to be digested and broken down. Depending on what we ate, we might need to use more energy to break it down. So it's an important concept to understand that if we're eating different foods, we can actually increase our basal metabolic rate that way. Like we can actually increase our body. So when we're eating refined sugars and things like that are very, very easily processed into energy, which then gets stored away because you used very little energy to digest it, right? All of a sudden, our body didn't have to do much. We've got all this excess energy, and it's going, what do we do with it? Fat cells. That's where it goes, okay? So we'll walk through some of that later to give you some specifics. And then I love this one. I meet people all the time say things like, but I eat healthy, doc. When someone walks into me and goes, oh, I eat pretty good, I know you eat like crap. I'll guarantee you eat like crap. Because the people that are really eating really good, when they tell me they're eating good, they show me. They give me examples. It's innate in them. They start rattling off all the things they do that they know are better for them. They say things like, no, I eat really, really clean. Everything we eat is organic, as fresh as possible. We eat no processed junk. We eat no refined sugar. We never go out to the restaurants. We don't eat any seed oils or any vegetable oil. They rattle it off and I go, oh, you probably do eat good. When you walk into my office and go, we eat good. I go, oh boy, we got work to do. Because here's the scary part. You actually believe it. I got to crack your brain open and show you this is all the bad thinking that's going on in there that you think is okay for you because of the lies you've been fed, like Dr. Casey said at the beginning of the day, that we've got to retrain the way you think so you can actually acknowledge that what you're eating is bad for you. And that's a much harder place to be. Unconscious ignorance. You don't realize, unconscious incompetence is a better way to say it. You don't realize what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, but you think you're doing okay. So step one is to get them to, we'll talk about this a little later, conscious incompetence. I now recognize that I don't know what I'm doing. And then you say, help. And then I say, follow me, and you actually take a step. That's the key. Got to take steps. So just to give you a real quick perspective, it's about another 2-minute video here that I'm going to play. It's the intro to a documentary that starts to talk about this, but it really lays out some good stuff as we start to get into actionable things here. There it goes.
make us healthy, remain free of chronic diseases.
Food is supposed to support your health and life.
Food is supposed to give us the building blocks needed to build and repair the human body and the energy needed to do those processes. The reality today is that food is mostly harming us.
90% of the footprint of a supermarket is filled with what Michael Pollan once called food-like substances. They're not food.
No matter what chronic disease you look at, we've seen them rise from being very uncommon or extremely rare even or unknown to the most common diseases that even children are aware of.
We have food guidelines from the United States government. We have all of these things telling us how to eat, how to live our lives, how to exercise, and our health has done nothing but get worse.
So our public health system really is a disaster. They've done things like vilify saturated fat, vilify cholesterol, and confuse the whole subject.
We now live with so much sickness all around us that we can't even imagine what it feels like to live in a healthy society.
Over a 20-year span, no increase in calories, moderate increase in exercise, and yet obesity rates went from 30% to 42%. That should sound the alarm bells for us. We're doing something wrong.
So there has to be something else in the environment.
What we're being told to eat is at the heart of our problem.
So it might sound like I'm sort of beating this issue to death here at the beginning. But I've been doing this long enough to know that if I don't shake the crap out of some of you with multiple data points to prove what I'm trying to teach you, you'll walk out that door and make the same choices again tomorrow. And then I wasted my time, energy, and so did you. And I don't want that. So start digging into some action steps here. So, toxic, healthy foods. Ready? Get ready to go home, clean out your fridge, your pantry. All right? Low fat and no fat, fat-free foods. How do they make it taste good if they take all the fat out? Sugar, artificial sweeteners like Splenda, sweet and low, sucralose, dextrose, you name it. All of those are known to be pro-inflammatory, toxic, and screw up our mitochondrial function. Granola bars and cereal bars. Why? Because what's in them? Number one, they're grains, which turn to sugar very rapidly. Oftentimes they're refined grains. Right, we got all these grains, and then what do they do with it? Well, the grain itself doesn't taste that good, so what do they put on it? Sugar! And that doesn't last very long on the shelf, so what do they put in there? Preservatives. It'll last forever. That way, if you die out in the woods somewhere, your granola bar will still be there for the next guy. Okay? And they label it like natural or even organic, which I'm a proponent of, but organic sugar is still sugar and still causes the same mitochondrial dysfunction and screws up our body. Veggie chips and veggie straws. Because guess what they're mostly made of? It says they're made of vegetables, but they're not like whole vegetables. They're fried in unhealthy oil. There's preservatives. Oftentimes additional flavorings are added. Sugar is added. Sports drinks. Listen, I grew up when Gatorade burst onto the scene, and it was like the greatest thing in the world, right? And I remember being in grade school, and one of our teachers being like, we could have a water bottle. I'm like, can't we have, like, we're going to have soda, which is good. But they were like, can we have Gatorade? Like, Gatorade's good for you. And she's like, Gatorade's worse for you than the soda. And I was like, told you she's crazy. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Fast forward. Mrs. Jones was right. Sugar, the food dyes that are in all of those drinks, absolutely terrible for us. Again, we've already kind of touched on this. All the artificial sweeteners in diet products, these zero-calorie sweeteners, they screw up our gut health. They actually increase your sugar cravings. So what happens is you're eating the low sugar, no sugar, sugar-free, et cetera, but the sweetness triggers the desire for more sweetness. And so then what you do is you go back for more, and you end up perpetuating the dysfunction that's created, or eventually you cave in and you just go straight for the garbage that's full of sugar and everything else. And this is one of my favorite ones, processed plant meats. Scientists have created this thing, have made this recent discovery where you can actually turn plants into meat. It's called a cow. They eat plants, they turn it right into meat. You don't have to send it to a lab anywhere. There's no preservatives. It tastes delicious. It's good for you. I don't know if you guys, like I said, I hope you watch it real close on the video. Did you see when it went through that recent study? This was just like in the last couple of years. Healthy foods versus the most unhealthy foods. They had like Honey Nut Cheerios and Skittles and Trix cereal and all that near like the top 10 or 15. And then they had like chicken and beef on the bottom as like the worst things you could possibly eat. What a load of crap. So humans have been eating meat since the beginning of time, and we've been eating Skittles for 30 years. And Skittles are clearly better for us than meat. I mean, it just takes a little bit of logic to go, wait a second, this can't possibly pencil out long term if I stay in this path. So what matters beyond our fats, proteins, and carbs, which is what most people spend their time focused on, is our ingredients and the quality of the ingredients that we're consuming. That's what matters the most. So the old adage, you are what you eat, isn't really true. It's you are what they ate when it comes to all of your animal products. And so how can we say that one meat or one brand of egg or one brand of dairy product is better than another? Well, the quality of it, how was it raised and produced, makes a big difference. And I'm going to go through some of the basics of the food stuff here really quick because this is not a nutrition class alone. We do those regularly. And so we have one scheduled in a few weeks. So again, if you are brand new and you're like, man, I really want to dive even deeper into the nutrition component, you're going to have an opportunity to sign up for that. Actually, do we have the clipboards? Go and pass those around. We're going to give you the clipboards. You can sign up for that. And if that one doesn't work, but you really want to come, put your name on it, maybe put a check mark or something next to your name, and we'll know, hey, I can't make that date for whatever reason. I've got an important commitment already. But we'll follow up with you and we'll get you plugged into one as soon as possible. That way you're on the list. And so it's how these animals are raised. And so we look at things like chicken, for instance, like free range versus pasture raised versus cage free. So cage free means simply that the animal is not in a box this big all day. But it's oftentimes that there's like 800 chickens in a room this big. So they literally like can't move, right? They fight their way over to the waterer and they fight their way over to the feed, right? And when they clean those barns out, like, okay, it's time to ship all these chickens off to turn them into chicken breasts in your grocery store, they find dozens of dead ones because of the unhealthy, unnatural. They don't get fresh air. They don't get sunlight. Again, they're just right on top of one another all the time, so they're fighting for space. So, but that became a buzzword. Oh, cage free. We don't put our chickens in little cages. We just shove them in there so tight they might as well be in a cage. Free range means they get some outdoor access, which is good, but oftentimes the amount of time they get outside, the quality of their feed. So again, if I put 100 chickens and this was an outdoor space, but this was all the space they had to peck at the ground for grass and seeds and bugs and so on, which is their natural diet, well, within a couple of days, this is bare. There's no grass, there's no nothing, right? And they'll scratch and claw and they'll clean the bugs out pretty fast too. And then all they're getting is some time outside with a little bit of fresh air, maybe a little bit of sunlight, but they're just scratching it at dead dirt. There's nothing there for them that brings life and vibrance. And so then, now, in general, that is still a step up if you're going down the list, but what we really want is pasture raised. Pasture raised eggs means that they live outside all the time. Like they have access to inside versus they get access to outside. Does that make sense? Like you see the difference there, right? Like when the sun starts to go down, chickens will naturally go roost. I have chickens, so I've learned all this. I didn't have chickens growing up, so I'm learning new things. So the chickens, like as soon as the sun starts to go down, their natural instinct is to go in, perch up high on something, and hang out for the night. So guys that are doing this properly, I've got an automatic door. Sun comes up in the morning, door opens. It's got a little solar panel on it. Door opens, chickens come running out. They've got access to go eat and wander and do all the things. And then, as it gets dark, they go inside. Now, we throw them some extra stuff to eat to make sure that they're well fed. We do supplement their food a little bit, but they pretty much eat bugs and grass and stuff off the ground, and that's it. And so that's what we want to look for. When we get those types of eggs, they have more nutrient density in the egg. They have more good omegas, omega-3s in the egg. And so that's why this stuff matters, because we're fueling our body better when we get something that's more in alignment with God's design for it. Does that make sense? And so oftentimes the question I ask is like, how close is this to the way that it would have been 500 years ago? Like just rule out any significant industrial at all. What would this have looked like a few hundred years ago? How would that animal have lived? How would it have been raised? What would it have ate? Right? If I can get as close to that as possible, that's what I'm aiming for every single time. Does that make sense to everybody? And so that, again, that becomes a simple filter. We could change our filter. Instead of standing at the grocery store going, which one fits in my budget better? Because, I don't know if a higher grocery bill or diabetes fits in your budget better, but I can tell you that the diabetes is way more expensive. So, it's an investment. You're viewing food as the fuel for your body. You're investing in your family's well-being as opposed to buying the one that's 50 cents cheaper. Because that's how I grew up. It's funny. She said the food. I got to come back to this. It's a funny story. She said the food-like product in the grocery store. Yeah. Some of you guys caught that? It's true, right? So I grew up dairy farming. Raw milk is how I grew up. Right? We had the local store where literally like our milk went to town, turned into cheese, went back to the store, and we could just go buy it back from there. I was in chiropractic school. I came home to visit my two brothers. I have an older brother, a younger brother. They were living together at the time. We were all in our kind of early to mid 20s. And I come home and I'm like, you guys got anything to eat? I'm starving. And they're like, oh yeah, there's stuff in the fridge for sandwiches. So, okay, I go over there. I'm like, you guys got any cheese? Yeah, it's in the bottom drawer. I said cheese. This says cheese-like product. I said, Grandpa Arnold is rolling over in his grave right now because you guys have cheese-like product in your refrigerator and you grew up on a dairy farm. To which I got, yelled at and told that it was a girlfriend that bought it. Okay, whatever. You ate it, though. Quit blaming somebody else. Take some responsibility. So these things matter. What is grass-fed? So not all grass-fed is even created equal. So grass-fed is important. That's what cows are supposed to eat. They're supposed to eat grass. They're not supposed to eat grain, which is what we mostly feed them. We feed them grain, and we feed them byproducts like brewer's grain or brewer's yeast. Do you know what that is? No. It's literally the byproducts of making beer. It's after they ferment the grain and all this stuff, and it's of no value. They use it as a filler for cattle. And you just put cottonseed is another one. When they pick cotton, they pluck the seed out of the inside, right? Then they feed the seed to cows. Here's what's interesting. We did this growing up on the dairy farm. You can't let a bull run in a herd that is fed cottonseed for more than a certain period of time because it'll make them go sterile. And everybody knew that. And so everybody would just move their bull out for a while, and they put him out with a different group over here that was getting different feed. Or they'd pen him up over here for a little bit to make sure all that stuff processed out of their system, and then we'd throw them back in there. And nobody said, wait a second, if it makes the bull sterile, is it really good for the cow? Or for me to eat the milk or the meat from that cow? I don't know. Nobody's ever done the research on it, but we knew for damn sure that made the bull sterile. And I'm going, I got 3 kids, 1 more on the way, so I guess it didn't affect me too much. But we are seeing fertility rates plummet. Is that part of it? I don't know. Could be. But it's a question that ought to be asked. And we just blindly, who cares, whatever, let's just navigate the problem instead of solve the problem, identify why the problem was created. So grass-fed. So it's about making sure, ideally the cow is fed nothing but grass, 100% grass-fed and grass-finished. Because otherwise we can call a cow grass-fed or meat grass-fed, and it can be like 70% non-grass fed. So it only has to be 30% of their diet is grass-fed, and we can call them a grass-fed animal. So it's actually way less than half. So what's the other 70%? All the crap we're talking about, right? So we want grass-fed, grass-finished. We want them to be 100% or as close to that. That's why it's always great to find somebody local or a local butcher shop that makes sure that they sell 100% grass-fed, and there are some in the area. Because again, we see higher omega-3s, we see higher antioxidant ratios, we see more nutrient density in those foods versus conventional meats or partially grass-fed meats. Oftentimes there's things added like hormones and things like that to try and speed up the weight gain in some of these animals, which isn't across the board, but in a lot of places it is. And so we want to make sure that we're eliminating those. So I was talking about earlier, I said we'd come back to this, foods that specifically will boost your metabolism. And so you've got this slide. I actually put this on a slide for you so you can take it home and you don't have to write this all down. It should basically look like that, but it's going to have what I'm about to go through listed off in there. I'm not sure where it is in the packet. Let me see. I'll find it. Nope. I'm just kidding. Who is that? Yes, ma'am.
So going back to grass-fed,
This one. Looks like this.
is there a differentiation with the fat content though with that, like in terms of like 90?
Yeah, so when you're looking for grass-fed, everybody find this? I just want to make sure y'all got it. I know it's in there. I just want to make sure you see it so you know you have it. Okay. So good question. So when you go to the grocery store, it should be on your, assuming they're all put together the same, it should be on your left side about 4 or 5 pages back. So our question was, is there a difference when you look at like, hey, it's 75% lean or 90% lean, meaning they've got less fat in it? Yes. If it's good quality, meaning like 100% grass-fed, I want all the fat that should be in there. Because it's good for you, because good fat is actually some of the best fuel for your body. When we eat so much low fat, no fat, or highly refined fats like vegetable oils, we'll touch on that, that's what most of that movie, that documentary is all about, vegetable oils and seed oils. That's what they talk about, how we've been told that's good for us and it's terrible for us. I want as much good, clean fat in there as I can get. Now, if I was in a situation where I had to choose between more fat or less fat, and it was conventional meat, so I knew it wasn't grass-fed, then I want less fat. Why? Because your body actually hides toxins in the fat. The more toxic we are, that's part of the problem with weight gain, obesity, etc., is we oftentimes have a lot of toxins that are stored in those fat cells, and your body doesn't want to, the fat cell acts like an insulator. So it doesn't want to let go of that because then the body has to deal with the toxin again. So it holds on to those fat cells, and that's part of weight loss resistance for a lot of people. So because of that, if I'm getting that from an animal, and I know that animal was raised conventionally, there's going to be more toxins in those fat cells. So then I would want lean meat. I would want, the 70%, 90% lean and get as little bit of fat in there as possible. But if I'm getting good, clean stuff, I want all the fat in there I can get. Welcome. Good question. Okay, so you guys should have all just about found that slide already. So protein-rich foods, metabolic boosting foods. Protein-rich food, grass-fed meat, wild-caught fish, pasture-raised eggs. This increases thermogenesis, which means your body's, the required amount of energy, like we talked about, to digest good, clean meat. It's harder to digest. That's a good thing if you're trying to increase your basal metabolic rate. It takes more work to digest it, and then you get all the good, clean energy out of it. Does that make sense to everybody? So good, clean protein. Leafy greens, they're high in iron and magnesium. They're crucial for supporting energy production and metabolism. And again, there's a lot of fiber in your leafy greens. Healthy fats, like we just talked about. And there's a list of some examples there. They provide some of the best energy and hormonal health. One of the reasons we've got so many hormone and fertility issues is because we're eating all of these processed fats that don't give us the good natural building blocks for hormone production. Most of your hormones are built off of a cholesterol ring if you get into biochemistry. Cholesterol is the base, and then if we add a couple of different molecular bonds, we get testosterone or estrogen or progesterone or whatever. And so all of those start at that same base. So we've got to have good fat. Again, we've been told that all these vegetable oils are good for us. They're better for us. But again, people have been eating animal fat since the beginning of time. And we've been eating seed oils for the last 50 years. So something's not adding up there. Certain spices, turmeric, cinnamon, cayenne pepper, ginger are known to help your metabolism and promote fat burning. And then berries. High in fiber, antioxidants, and they help combat inflammation. So those are some things just right off the cuff if you're wanting to increase and improve your metabolism. Those are some things that you want to look at adding in potentially more of, just as a specific. So again, as we've kind of touched on already, not all fats are the same. Good fats versus bad fats. You guys have another thing in your list there. You don't have to go dig it out, but it's in there. It's usually called use this, not that. Yep. Looks like this. It's got the good fats listed, the bad fats listed. Again, there's a lot to cover, so we try and simplify some of that. I will say this, I'll say this part. If it's not on the use this list, don't use it. End of lesson. Patients come in once in a while. What about black walnut, African walnut oil? What? I don't know. I gave you like 5 good ones. Use those. Okay? Bad fats. I want to read this. Bad fats such as artificial trans fats, excessive saturated fats contribute to weight gain, clogging arteries, and causing a higher risk of chronic disease. A 2000 study from year 2000 revealed that the average American consumed nearly 75 pounds of added fats and oils in a single year. These are trans fats and vegetable oils. About 19% of their daily caloric intake in the typical diet comes from saturated and trans fats, which far exceeds the healthy limits that we would want. Again, it's 20% of your caloric intake is coming from trans fats. Experts recommend keeping your fats down to 10% of your daily intake. And so the American diet is full of unhealthy fats. And so we do things like, we see patients doing things like dirty keto. Why would you do dirty keto? Like, the sound of it is just dumb. Right? Like, nobody would, like nowhere else would that be okay to label it as dirty. What they're doing is they're going, oh, I'm eating a lot of fat, right? Because that's what keto is. But not the like expensive fats like real butter and coconut oil. I'm sticking with the cheap garbage, which is why you're sick in the first place, which is why those people don't get very good results. Or they get limited results, right? They lose some weight for a while, like we talked about, things are going well, and then as soon as they get just a little off track with that and kind of go back to their normal habits, bam, they gain everything back. So you guys have the list there. Again, if you need more info specifics, we cover that at Nutrition 101. And this is just important too. So many people get caught up counting calories. Counting calories never did anybody any good. Because again, the minute you stop counting, you're going to get off track. You could starve yourself into weight loss, but that doesn't usually lead to a sustainable situation. So I'll give you a perfect example of why this is no good. It's more about nutrition and quality than something as rudimentary as counting calories. So did you know that a Twinkie has the same number of calories as a handful of about 12 almonds? You're going to have a snack. I'm going to have a snack. Which one do you want? Somebody said Twinkie. Good. You can have all the garbage. All right, I'm going to eat the almonds. Calorically, we're the same. One of us is getting a bunch of fiber and nutrients and good fat and proteins, and the other one is getting nothing but refined sugar and bad oils and preservatives. You know, Twinkies last forever. They're like cockroaches. I was laughing about the granola bar. Twinkies, the same thing. I had this guy years ago. He was traveling around the country doing nutrition seminars like this. And he was doing that exact scenario. He goes, bag of almonds, little handheld like pack of single serve almonds, or a Twinkie. He said same number of calories. And And he was doing that for a couple of years. When he finally realized, he held up the, I don't have anything up here like that. He held up the Twinkie and he's like, it's still spongy. It's been in my backpack for several years. It's still got the exact same texture as the day that I threw it in my backpack. It doesn't ever decay because it's got so much chemicals in it. And then sugar. Sugar is a big one that I want to touch on. So this has a lot of sugar has a lot of major impacts on our health. Most of it bad. Excess sugar usually comes from refined sugars and processed sources, causes rapid spikes in our blood sugar levels. We get this huge surge of blood sugar because it's so easy to process, right? The body's primary source of energy when it breaks it down and turns it into what's called ATP, it's glycogen. It's a sugar molecule. Okay, your brain uses glycogen better than anything else. It's really its primary fuel source. So we have to have that. And then I watch people, hang with me for a second, I watch people go, well, you have to have some sugar because you gotta have glycogen. And I go, well, if you actually knew what you're talking about when it comes to biochemistry, you'd know that your body can turn just about anything into glycogen. Proteins and fats and sugars and carbs can all be turned into glycogen. Your body can do that as needed. But when, again, we give it all this refined sugar, it takes zero energy. It just breaks it down and bam, you've got all this sugar, right? So you get this huge spike in your blood sugar. That triggers a surge of insulin, which promotes fat storage and inhibits fat burning. So you're getting a double whammy when you eat all this sugar. Over time, chronic high sugar intake leads to insulin resistance, which is the precursor to diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and obesity. And then the sugar, again, provides empty calories. There's no nutrients coming along with the refined sugar. Right? So when you've got refined flour or refined sugar or whatever, even organic cane sugar or organic coconut sugar or whatever, right? It still takes little to no effort to turn that into sugar, and there's very little nutrition coming along with it. Whereas if I'm getting sugar, say, from an apple, I'm getting a ton of nutrients and fiber and other things with that my body has to digest, which takes effort and energy. And I'm getting all those nutrients that can get put to use in other ways. Does that make sense to everybody? Somebody say no. Did I hear a no?
We have a question.
Uh-oh. All right, you have one question. I'm trying to make sure we stay on time.
I know, but on this chart,
Uh-huh.
what does this mean, clean 15 and dirty dozen?
Yes, so that's good. So, good question. So, the Clean 15 Dirty Dozen, and I'll circle back to this in a little bit and tell you that the app that comes off of. Clean 15 is produce that tends to be sprayed with way less pesticides. So if you're on a budget and you're going, do I get organic or do I get whatever, right? The clean are the ones that you can buy non-organic conventional, and you're going to get a lot less junk added to your diet. The Dirty Dozen are the ones that tend to be sprayed the most, and that list changes a little bit year by year. So you can write it down now. I intend to hit it later, but since we're talking about it, just in case I miss it, Environmental Working Group, EWG.org. They have an app. You can scan stuff on the app. You can scan food. You can scan personal care products, makeup, soap, shampoo, etc., and get the ones that have the least amount of toxins, because that's a big part of disrupting our metabolism. EWG, Environmental Working Group, EWG.org.
Question on going back to eggs. So eggs are insane right now. What's my for us to find eggs?
Not mine. Mine are free.
Do you go to your house then?
I'll sell you some. I got a lot.
Up here?
And sometimes we do.
Once a week.
Sometimes we do. When I have extra. We've sold a few. Problem is we keep having family come to town, and then we're feeding like 8 people. And it's like, and they make breakfast I get up and go to the office, and they're having like homemade, like they got eggs and farm fresh bacon, and I'm like, you guys suck. I gotta go to the office. So they're going through like gobs of eggs, so we haven't had a lot of extra. But we probably will now, because nobody's visiting for a few months. So you can keep an eye on that.
Question though.
Yeah, what is your specific question?
I know not to get over eggs. I know. So Michael's always been organic.
Mhm.
That's the closest I can get to affording eggs versus having to get a little 12-pack of pasture eggs for like $10.
Yep.
So
So sometimes that's the
okay.
it's the lesser of two evils for sure. You're doing the best you can, and sometimes that's where we're at, and I get that. I know economy has sucked, inflation has kicked everyone in the pants, and hopefully some of that will get better soon. But that's part of what we try to offer with the Clean 15, the Dirty Dozen, the Good, Better, Best. So again, the organic, pasture-raised, cage-free, the different levels there is like we're trying to move in that direction. And sometimes when things are tough or you're still learning, right? And it's like, okay, my grocery bill is going up, you know, and it's like, where do I maneuver? Sometimes that's where you've got to go. And just saying, hey, what's the lesser of two evils?
So funny, that's the way I gotta go organic around. You think I was even good.
Well, you're better. It's a step in the right direction. I didn't say it was bad. You're doing it. Nikki's got a comment.
So I do get my eggs at Walmart, but they're range-free and they're organic. So it depends on what Walmart you go to. Yep, because the one on Golden Triangle, they do have the good. They're out right now, but yes. They have an 18-pack and a 12-pack. Okay.
I'm talking more about that at the break.
Going back to your Clean 15, you kind of went real quick past it, so I just want to make sure we're clear. The Clean 15 means
They're clean. They're sprayed with less stuff.
so it's okay to.
It's okay to buy those conventional, non-organic. Yes. The Dirty Dozen are just that. They're dirty. So they're sprayed with a lot of stuff, and if you're going to eat that stuff, you got to try and get it organic, or it's better off to avoid it for that season. Okay, so basic overview, and we gave everybody an overview, right, on the advanced plan. It's in their packet.
Of
The advanced plan overview. Okay, some of you guys have already said yes. So the basic idea of our advanced plan, to kind of tie a bow on a lot of what we've talked about here, is to eat as clean as possible. So again, we want to go for organic as much as possible because Roundup is destroying our bodies. The synthetic chemicals that are being sprayed are destroying our bodies. They're disruptive to hormone production and to metabolic function. So we want to eliminate those things. We also want to eliminate the refined sugars and carbs. And that's everything from grains and flours and crackers and pastas and rice and all this sort of stuff. Now, before I get any hate mail about all of that and what the heck am I supposed to eat, Doc, some of this is oftentimes for a season. Do I eat some of those things on occasion? Yes. Because I'm fit, because my health is where I want it to be, because I'm doing very well, I can have a little more grace. If you're sitting here saying, I've got a health problem, I've got a health goal, but you're unwilling to make those changes, then you are at a crossroad. Then you get to decide. There's no judgment. I said that earlier. I was like, I'm not here to judge or beat anybody up. But you get to decide. Am I willing to make the changes for a season? And as you get better and your lifestyle changes, it becomes easier. It's not such a big change. It's just what you do. I was a meat and potatoes kid on a dairy farm. And I was like, don't eat bread and don't eat white potatoes. And I was like, what the heck am I supposed to eat? Luckily, I was never a picky eater. So I was like, I'll try anything twice and see if I like it. Okay. So it's a season and a lifestyle change. And then on occasion, if something comes at you or you decide you want to treat or something, that's fine. But we're getting our health on track first. Then we decide how much grace and wiggle room we're allowed to give ourselves. Does that make sense to everybody? Too many people are like, well, I did good for 4 days, so I can have a treat on Friday. I'm like, you ain't done nothing yet. Like your metabolism hasn't changed at all. Unless you've done this for a solid 30 days, you probably haven't actually made any physiological change. And at 30 days, it's like one, what I would call vacation meal, not day, meal, that's not off the deep end, and then you're back on track because it's going to take some time. Some of you have got a 30 or 40-year-old problem that you're trying to undo, and you're mad because you didn't see a measurable change in 30 days. It don't work that way. You didn't wake up one day 50 pounds overweight. That took years. You didn't wake up one day diabetic like we talked about. High blood pressure, high cholesterol takes time. So we clean up the sugars. We clean up our produce. We want good, clean protein, animal products like we talked about. Again, all that's laid out in there for you. And if you need more insight on that, I can get to the nutrition class. But that's the basics of the advanced plan and getting our health moving in a better direction. Sorry, and the good clean fats like we laid out in there. That's a crucial one, okay? So you've all got that as a take home to review, to study, to take to the grocery store, all right? And then you can plug into the Nutrition 101 and we can dig a little bit deeper, okay? So, some really important stuff here as we want to get our body moving. So things that are awesome for not just our metabolism, but for our overall health and well-being. Grass-fed organ meats are amazing. Organ meats are some of the most nutrient-dense meats you can get. Why? Think about it. What never shuts off? Your organs are always functioning. In most cases, your heart is always beating, right? If you've got your liver, kidneys, those things are always detoxing and doing their job. Your stomach only rests if you haven't eaten in quite a few hours, right? Otherwise, at least part of your digestive tract is always working and moving and digesting and breaking down nutrients. And so they require the most energy. We're talking about that mitochondrial, the number of mitochondria that any given tissue has. Your organ meats have some of the most mitochondrial dense cells in them because they're always working. And with that, they require the most nutrition to be able to fuel themselves. So they've got all kinds of extra nutrients that are in there. And so what's really cool is we look at things like, and this is going to sound really weird for some of you guys, trust me, I know. But we look at bovine like thyroid, adrenals, pancreas, thymus, spleen, gallbladder, stomach, duodenum. There's all these building blocks in there. And they actually, what's cool is when you consume organ meats from animals, they automatically go to helping repair and build and strengthen the same organ systems in your body. So if you eat liver, it strengthens your liver. If you eat heart, it strengthens your heart. If you eat kidney, it strengthens your kidney. And I see some of the eyes rolling and the gag. Don't worry, I'm gonna help you with that. But that's what happens when we consume this stuff. And again, if we're getting it from the best quality, so grass-fed, from grass-fed cattle, then we know they're eating the way that they should, and therefore their organ systems are as nutrient dense as possible. If we look at some of the other ones, things like kidneys specifically help with urinary epithelial infrastructure. So that's literally like the lining of your urinary tract. What's the other one there? The GI histamine metabolism is another really important one. So that is the histamines, right? Your immune response. So when you're eating certain things, right, and your body has a negative response to it, or you inhale certain things and your body has a negative response to it, consuming these things actually helps improve that for your long-term health. And then liver is like nature's multivitamin. Liver and onions. We're having it for lunch. It's in the back. There are two reactions right now. Blech! And yeah, let's do it, Doc. Let's go. Simmer, simmer, simmer. So what's cool is like, again, when you look at it though, when I say, look, nature's multivitamin, there's not a more nutrient dense organ in an animal that you could harvest. In 100 grams, which is not that much, 100 grams of liver, you get 133% of the daily necessary intake of iron, 109% of your zinc, 1,600 plus percent of copper, 5,300% of retinol, which is vitamin A, and 135% of B12.
Can you blend liver?
Can you what? Can you do? I'm getting there. So thyroids, adrenals, pancreas, spleen, gallbladder, stomach, duodenum, kidney, and liver. Who's ready? Yeah. Question on the liver.
I've heard that a lot of everything that's bad in the body goes through the liver, and sometimes that liver will save all that crap.
So to a degree, there can be some truth to that, again, which is why if we've got animals that are raised the right way, then they're going to be processing a lot less junk. Therefore, they won't be nearly as toxic. So the same is true throughout every organ system when we consume an animal.
So like if you go in the store, I used to buy a lot of chicken livers.
Mm-hmm.
Those are probably not the best, though, right?
Depends on how they're raised, yeah. Which chances are, if it just says bag of chicken livers, if they're not ranting and raving about how high quality it is, hey, it's free range, pasture raised, it's all the things, right? It's organic, we only feed them natural diet, blah, blah, blah. If that's not all over the label, then you're probably just getting a chicken who was fed Roundup Ready corn. So, okay, nobody's going to eat that stuff, are they? Well, a couple of you might. Even the ones who said yes to the liver, you ready to eat some duodenum? Some spleen? Like, yeah, I'll try it at least once, right? Okay, so my point is this. I want you to understand this. There's a lot of stuff that we should be eating. And if you go back a couple hundred years ago, a lot of people ate this stuff all the time. We've turned into big old babies. If it doesn't taste like a candy bar, you won't eat it. But that's why your health is where it is. I sat in a workshop. I don't remember who it was. I don't know if it was one of y'all or one of your other friends that was here that day. I was talking about this sort of stuff. A couple months ago, I've been playing the clip on the TV because they said, what about the fun stuff? And I go, what do you mean fun stuff? You've all seen the clip, haven't you? Raise your hand if you're a patient. You already know what I'm talking about. You've seen the clip that we're playing on TV. What about the fun stuff? This is why you're here. The fun stuff is why you're sick. When you change your diet and your habits, suddenly you start to enjoy real food again. You're so used to synthetic refined sugar that you can't enjoy real food. You will. You will enjoy it again if you stick to it for a season. I tell patients all the time, most of them don't believe me until they actually see it for themselves. If you put down all the crap and start eating real food, your taste buds will change. And suddenly you'll start enjoying and craving the good stuff, the real food again. But you've got to commit to doing it for a while. You can't eat real food for 2 days and go, well, it didn't taste like candy. Well, no crap. I'll tell you that up front. It won't taste like candy. It won't taste like cake. But that's why you're sick. Are you willing to make the change? You have to decide that for yourself. Now, nobody's going to go home and buy a bunch of organ meats. So we're going to go into a break here in just a little bit. But I want to walk you through this. So what's really cool, I'm really, really excited about this formula that we've got here, these 3 new products. Because there's a lot of really cool stuff going on. All those organ meats that I talked about, they're in there. So you're like, can I blend it? Who's it? Blend it and just whoa. That sounds worse to me. I'd rather just eat it. I don't know. Oh, liver flavored smoothie? Yeah. Yuck. All those things are there, but they're coming very specifically from grass-fed animals. Some of them from regenerative organic certified, which is a whole nother level. It's like organic on steroids. It's like the best of the best of the best. It is getting as close to God ever intended it as we possibly can. Okay? And with this formula, so all those organ meats I just listed off are already there. And there's 20 different clinically studied ingredients that are all in this one bundle of things that we're talking about. And what's really cool is these formulas that I'm going to walk through here fairly quickly, they literally don't exist anywhere else. They've never been packaged like this before. The brainchild behind this is literally one of the world's greatest minds when it comes to nutrition and supplement formulation. I technically can't tell you his name because he has a non-compete right now, because he just sold a major company for a few $1 billion, a nutrition company. And he has a 2-year contract that he's not allowed to actually own any of this, but he's so passionate about this formula. We've worked with him over the years. He said, we have to get this formula to market as fast as possible. I can't sell it to anybody else. I'll give it to you because I'm going to work with you. I'll give you some hints if anybody maybe knows any of this stuff. He wrote a book called The Maker's Diet. He wrote another book called Patient Heal Thyself. He's the founder and developer of the product line Garden of Life and the founder and developer of Ancient Nutrition. Both of those companies sold for over $1 billion a piece. The guy knows a thing or two about healthy nutrition. He created all this, the formulas. He raises all the animals on a farm in Tennessee and another one in Missouri, thousands of acres with nothing but grass and trees and hills and animals living the way God designed them to live. And the other part of this is, what's really cool is in here, as I'm going to walk through some stuff, Everything I'll walk you through, I said it's all 20 clinically studied ingredients. The ingredients are at the clinically studied doses. So this is an important thing to understand when you're buying supplements and products. When you go to the store and there's 37 ashwagandhas on the shelf, as an example, and there's some research that says ashwagandha is really good for you and it helps your metabolism and this, that, and the other. What happens is that research is done. And they take a room like this, they divide it in half, and some of you get 20 milligrams of ashwagandha and some of you get nothing. And then we study the results and we go, look, ashwagandha is great. And then Joe Schmo and Tom and Dick and Harry over here that have a supplement company all go, ashwagandha is good for you. Let's put 0.5 micrograms in our supplement and tell everybody it's got ashwagandha. Yay! And then you buy it and you can't figure out why it didn't make a difference. Because it's not at the clinically relevant dosage. And guess what? None of you know what the clinically relevant dosage is. Because you don't sit around reading clinical studies. So we did that. And everything that we've put into these new formulas is at the clinically studied dosage. So we know when it says 80% of people saw this change, we know that if we give that to 100 people, 80 of them are going to see a measurable change there. Does that make sense to everybody? So the clinical dosage is crucial to understanding. Otherwise, you don't really know what you're getting. It might have a certain amount or percentage of your daily intake or whatever, but if it's not been studied at that dosage, we don't know if we're going to get the expected result. And that's really, really important. The other part of this is a lot of the nutrients I'm going to talk about here in the next few minutes are what we would call adaptogenic nutrients. And what that means is a lot of times you'll take something and somebody go, oh, take vitamin C because it boosts your immune system. Take this because it boosts that, or it boosts this thing over here. Adaptogenic is a whole nother thing. Adaptogenic means balance, homeostasis, getting back to normal when something helps your body adapt. So what that means, if I've got two people in this room, one of you has hypothyroidism, one of you has hyperthyroidism, and I give you a nutrient that is adaptogenic for your thyroid, you'll both benefit from the exact same nutrient. And there's a lot of this stuff that we know. There's a lot of adaptogens are kind of one of the greatest new discoveries, if you will, in the last few years when it comes to nutrition. Seeing a nutrient that will balance an organ or a system versus just a nutrient that might support its normal optimum function. Because if you got hyperthyroid, we don't want to boost that at all, do we? We want to bring that thing back under control. If you got elevated blood pressure or heart rate, we want to bring that back to balance. And that's exactly what adaptogenic nutrients do. That's what we talk about when I really get deep into chiropractic, is it allows the body to adapt. It's not about boosting things. We want the body to be able to adapt and get itself back to normal. I started out today talking about your body is this beautifully designed, self-healing, self-regulating, self-adapting organism. As long as we give it what it needs and keep the junk out, it will continue to do that. And this formula here that we're going to walk through, or these three different formulas, I should say, are designed to support that in literally every facet of your body's function. And you'll see that as I go through these fairly quickly. So the first one is cellular health and longevity. Literally, if I can get every cell in your body functioning and healing well, then you would be healthy. I don't know if that was a yawn or healthy. 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 If every cell's healthy, you're healthy. Right? That's what we're trying to do. So what's in this one? So again, this one specifically has 9 of those ingredients in it. The first one's PQQ. Who's heard of CoQ10? This is CoQ10's big brother. He taught CoQ10 everything he knows, right? He's the reason CoQ10's any good, because of his big brother here. Helps with cellular energy, mitochondrial integrity, and longevity. It's one of the most powerful nutrients you could possibly take. The other thing about this is some of these nutrients come from all over the world, and they're hard to get. That's the other really cool thing. When I said these formulas don't exist anywhere, it's because some places, some of these things only grow in certain areas. You can't get it. But when we get to work with the guy that we're working with, who's built some of the biggest nutrition companies all over the world, and can pick up the phone and talk to just about any CEO in the country, Walmart, Sprouts, Whole Foods, this guy can go wherever he wants and do whatever he wants. We get access to stuff like this that you literally can't find anywhere else. The other one's melon extract. So antioxidant, anti-aging, combat stress. Those are the three things that make you look and feel old fast. Aging, oxidation, and stress. If we can reduce that, reverse that, balance that, we're going to improve our health and longevity. Ashwagandha was one of the ones I talked about. It is one of the greatest adaptogens in the world, if it's at the clinical dose. Not just a snippet of it. There's a real significant amount there. It balances hormones, and it fights to reduce cortisol. So we're so darn stressed out, and we eat junk, which stresses us out, right? And then we're busy, and then we don't sleep. Stress. Our cortisol goes through the roof, and that actually inhibits our ability to burn fat. It causes us to store fat. It causes us not to sleep and rest, which means we don't heal and recover. If we can manage our cortisol production properly, then we're going to be better off. The other thing is methylated B vitamins. This is really cool. So who's heard of the MTHFR mutation? Raise your hand if you've heard of that. Like 2 people, 3 people. Okay, so have you heard of it?
No, I'm laughing because of me.
I thought you were laughing because you were like, nobody knows what he's talking about. I was like, did I get one more? I got 4 people in the room. Okay, MTHFR. What this is a genetic mutation that we've discovered in the last, 10 or 20 years. It's been, and we believe, from what we can grasp so far, that more and more people are dealing with the MTHFR mutation. And you can have this mutation at varying degrees. I have it at a certain degree. My wife has it at a certain degree. And we're different. But chances are we've passed a good chunk of that on to our kids. What it is, the MTHFR, is that your liver doesn't methylate well, which is a crucial component in utilizing a lot of key nutrients, like B vitamins. If you don't methylate well, and you take all the world's greatest B vitamins, and they're not methylated already, you won't use them. They just go right into the toilet. And we're seeing more and more people are having this MTHFR mutation. It's kind of funny. My son had to have a procedure, really weird thing. He had a bone cyst. It was very, very odd. And so he had to have the surgery, and we're studying and we're looking at this MTHFR. They don't do good with the anesthesia, the normal anesthesia, and there's a less toxic anesthesia that you can use that kids with MTHFR mutation can do better with because they don't wake up well when they have MTHFR. It takes them a long time to metabolize it. And so we're talking with the nurses and stuff and the anesthesiologist leading up to this. And it was so comical because the anesthesiologist, the arrogant little thing that she was like, well, where did you hear that? And we're like, well, we study it and this is part of what we do in our office and so on. She's like, yeah. She goes, I think a lot of these natural-minded doctors are pushing this MTHFR stuff way more than it actually is. And my wife goes, that's funny because this research study that I'm quoting was written by your boss. He works upstairs. It came from that hospital.
What'd you say to that?
The same BS they always say. I'll have to go look at that. Yeah, maybe you should. Again, you're lied to. They don't know what they're talking about half the time. This is important. If you're not methylating, now you can test for MTHFR. And if you don't know, it's just good. We've been methylating all of our key vitamins for like a decade now. Pre-methylating all of this stuff. Why? So it doesn't matter if you have an MTHFR mutation or not. I can just give it to my patients that clearly need the nutrient, and you're going to be able to use it. But that's really, really important because, again, we're seeing a trend where more and more people have more and more severe MTHFR mutations. So our B vitamins are already methylated, which is crucial. Again, we're talking metabolism, energy levels, help support good energy. B vitamins is crucial for good energy. Homocysteine levels, which is, again, part of a immunoresponse, and then cellular health and mitochondrial function. This one's called Weizmannia coagulans. It is a probiotic that helps with antioxidant function or breaking down antioxidants into things that we can actually utilize and help with our stress management, oxidative stress in the body. So all of this is in that one product. The other one is our inflammation and immunity supplement. So when we look at this one, there's 6 different ingredients in there specifically for that. So again, immunity, things like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin K, and you guys can read through that. Very anti-inflammatory vitamin A, again, immunomodulator. Adaptogenic, that's what that means. An immunomodulator. If you've got an autoimmune condition, vitamin A will balance it. If you've got a weak immune system, vitamin A will bring it up to par. Cardiovascular health for K2 is a big one. I'm going to read through all of these. You guys can kind of read them as I'm talking there. This one's important. I want to point this out because some people are going to see this and go, I can't have that. Hydrolyzed eggshell membrane collagen. There's 10 types of collagen in here, which again helps with our oxidative stress and our elasticity in our skin and muscles, tendons, ligaments, etc. There's 10 types of collagen in one product here. There are no known allergens to hydrolyzed eggshell collagen. You may be allergic to eggs. You are not allergic to the collagen that is in the eggshell. This is the one that all the ladies want. Helps with all those little...
Fine lines, what they're called.
I wasn't gonna... Those lines look so fine. Boswellia extract, again, inflammation in the gut. I can do entire seminars on leaky gut issues. Funny story, I have to throw this in there too. So this just happened. Again, not to beat a dead horse, but I had a patient, been a patient for several years. She's done amazing, love her. She went in for a follow-up, some blood work with her medical doctor, and she's got quite an extensive history, so it's still important that she checks in on some things, even though she's doing really, really well. And she had a couple of numbers that were a little not ideal, so she had this follow-up appointment. And anyways, the doctor was basically like, yeah, these numbers don't look spectacular, but like all these other numbers over here that used to be so bad are so good. Like, it doesn't make any sense to the medical doctor why they're so good. That never happens. He doesn't have other patients seeing these changes. How's that even, like, I don't understand. She goes, well, it's my chiropractor. Well, what does that got to do with it? Well, my chiropractor, my nerve system and my nutrition, and I'm healing my leaky gut. And he goes, oh, he's like, leaky gut? I've heard of that, but I don't know what it is.
No way.
Maybe I should look into that.
Maybe I should get a doctor.
I don't know, maybe. Maybe you should study the underlying root cause of a lot of chronic conditions there, doc. The problem is, it's not his fault, her fault. He doesn't get paid to do that. He doesn't get paid to sit there and do this. There's no upside. He wouldn't give up, she wouldn't give up a Saturday morning, 3 hours away from her family to teach this. Number one, they don't know it. Number two, there's no benefit for them. And if they started teaching their patients how to get off of all the medication, there'd be no kickbacks. So again, several additional ingredients there to help with healthy inflammation, digestion, immune response, etc. And then the last one, this one's really cool too. There's a couple things I want to highlight. The digestion and detox product. What's great about this is, so a lot of this is soil-based organisms, stuff that comes out of the ground. So in our environment all around us, you know, we live in this weird place where like we're scared of bacteria and viruses and stuff like that. But we've lived in, what's the word I'm looking for? Synergy, that's not the exact right word, but you guys know what I'm trying to say. We've lived in communion with these things forever. We used to walk around barefoot more often than not, right? We used to be okay to go play in the dirt. Now I watch the new moms like over sanitize the passy when it like hits the floor. Like there's manure on the floor or something. I'm like, you're in an office building. Like, we swept last night. They're like, oh my God, bleach wipe. Put that one away. I'll get another one and we'll sanitize it when we get home. I'm like, good Lord. It's just a little dirt. God made dirt and dirt don't hurt. So there's all these microorganisms that are actually good for us. So when we eat food out of the ground, when we eat animals who ate food out of the ground, we're consuming these organisms. These microorganisms are actually really, really good for us. Ivermectin was originally developed from soil-based organisms. Ivermectin, not to get into all the stuff, but it's a well-known, it's been around forever, antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. That's why they used to just give it away in third world countries, because it helped people minimize that, and it's been around for 125 years. It's something that we knew was safe and effective all out of the get-go, but it came from these soil-based organisms. And then there's another ingredient in here called B. subtilis, which I'm going to go into a little bit of depth on, because this is actually a glyphosate shield for your body. Glyphosate is the active ingredient in Roundup, for those of you who have not been to a workshop before. So what it does is it literally blocks your body from breaking down and absorbing the glyphosate, and it pushes it right back out, which is amazing, because glyphosate is destroying guts all across our country. It's one of the biggest factors. I believe that very few people have gluten intolerances. I believe that almost every single person, until they have a gluten intolerance, has a glyphosate problem. And I could prove that to you. B. subtilis. It's on this next slide there. There you go. AB22. It's a glyphosate shield. So what you see on that chart there, the gray line is the control group. They were given no glyphosate. The red line is the amount of glyphosate, or they were given glyphosate with no B. subtilis. The AB22 is the nickname for it, AB22. The green line, they were given the glyphosate, but they were given AB22. So the gray line would be the baseline where we want to see, right? If we could get back to the gray line, that would be ideal. That would mean we were perfect. We got no junk, right? And so when they exposed these people to the glyphosate, we saw that big difference, that gap between the red line and the green line is how close we were, how fast we were getting back to zero, because this was blocking our body from absorbing the glyphosate. 100% of Americans have eaten glyphosate. It's impossible to avoid at this point. It's everywhere. Even if you've switched to all organic, it's become airborne. It's everywhere. It gets out. It's in our rainfall. They measure it all over the place. We find it in fish out in the middle of the ocean anymore, because we've poured so much of it into our soil. And so, yes, we want to shift to organic and all that stuff because we want to minimize it, but we have to start to protect ourselves from it if we can. And so this ingredient does just that. It's also anti-SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. This is a very big problem for a lot of people. We've got lots of good gut bacteria, but it gets out of balance, and we get the wrong bacteria in the wrong part of our small intestines. And now we've got all this gut dysfunction because of that. And it's very tricky to correct small SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. It's very tricky to balance that out. Small little mistakes will set you back months when it comes to correcting SIBO. It's not much fun. It's like the worst thing I see. It's one of the worst things I see when I see blood work and stool samples that come back for patients, because it's just so, it's not that it's the most devastating, it's just one of the hardest to correct, because there's zero wiggle room for a long time to get that straightened out for a lot of people. This helps with that. This is, again, one of those adaptogenic type nutrients. It gets in there and it's like, look, you're not supposed to be over there, and it starts to help wipe it out. It's a good bacteria that's going to help balance all of your bacteria. This is the whole list of everything that this one ingredient does. It's anti-SIBO, glyphosate shield, helps with antioxidant production. So glutathione is your body's natural street sweeper. It helps with glutathione production. Digestive support, elimination support, like getting things moving appropriately again, so you won't be full of you-know-what anymore. It helps your immune system. It generates cellulase, which helps digest the fiber in your plants. So again, you're actually going to move those things. You're going to pull more nutrients out and move the byproducts through your system faster. And it activates very quickly. Within 45 minutes of taking this thing, it's going to work. It doesn't take hours and hours for it to come alive in your gut when you take it. There's a couple of other really important ingredients there. Which one I want to talk about? The second one there. B. licheniformis. For those of you who are studying Latin, breaks down microplastics.
That's a big statement.
To get them out of your system. She said it earlier. We have the weight of a plastic spoon in our brains today. in microplastics. That's what the newest research is telling us. The average American consumes a credit card worth of plastic or one plastic grocery bag monthly. Finds its way into your system. It's what you eat, what you drink, even the air we breathe. And it doesn't take a whole lot of, logic or thought to recognize that consuming plastic into your system can't be good. And so again, this breaks them down, making them even easier for your body to process and move out of your system, which is crucial.
My mom pointed out something really well. You gave us all these plastic bottles.
It happens every time I teach. Every time I teach, somebody's like, we gave us a plastic water bottle. Listen, it's the lesser of two evils. Sometimes I could have gave you a soda can. So yes, given the choice, I'll drink water over garbage, right? But ideally, you've got your Stanley type cup here, your stainless steel cups that you're drinking out of most of the time. I got a stainless steel water bottle that I keep with me all the time. So highly encourage you to do that. We'll cover some of those in the latter part of the afternoon. Last thing here, couple of additional ingredients here. You guys can read it. Strengthens your respiratory system, gut support, immune support, digestion, elimination, protein absorption. So again, this whole combination of things that we've put in 3 products, literally the formulator estimates in his decades-long experience that with what we teach you on how to eat and how to detox your lifestyle, which will cover a lot of the detoxing your lifestyle in the second part, and your chiropractic care, that if we put that together with this formula, again, and good nutrition at the foundation, this is not a cure-all. You can't leave here today, buy these products, and go to Krispy Kreme on the way home. Right? Or McDonald's or Subway or whatever else, all right? Fast food chain you want to go get. It won't work. If we put it all together, he estimates that roughly 80% of people would see complete or near correction of most of their chronic diseases in time. You don't take 30 days of this either and change your diet 2 weeks from now and see that change. Consistency, month over month, year over year. My patients who've seen the best results have been here for a long time because undoing a 20, 30, 40, 50-year-old problem takes time. But if you're willing to commit to it and not be perfect, but commit to real significant change, you can see that change happen in your life. And so obviously there's a lot going into this. There's a lot of R&D that went into these supplements. There's a lot of very specific manufacturing and so on to get the ingredients from all over the place. So we're going to take a break here in a minute and you guys can stretch your legs, use the restroom, fill up a drink, grab a snack. Make sure you check out all of our community partners that are here. Don't leave. Yes, don't leave. Lots of important stuff to go through in the second part. And I usually say second half, but it's not half. We're 2/3 of the way through, okay? Normally, that's going to be $200 for the 3 products combined. Today, we're knocking 20% off. We don't usually knock 20% off at our workshops. We usually only do that at like Christmas in July and Black Friday and that sort of thing. Usually, it's more like 10 or 15, but we wanted to make it as reasonable as possible for as many people as possible to start to take these products. If you're sitting there going, that all sounded really good, but I don't like that price tag, Dr. B, where you would start for most people would just be with the cellular health. If you have to choose, if you want the best out of this whole formula, taking all 3 is going to be by far the best. But if you have to pick one, cellular health and longevity is kind of the foundational product amongst the 3. But that's where I want to encourage you. For those of you that are already patients, you're on other supplements, you're taking the protein, et cetera, everything's 20% off today. Again, bigger discount than we usually do at a workshop. So stock up. Highly encourage you to fill them on protein. We're talking about good protein and clean eating. That's a great place to start. It's just a simple smoothie in the morning. And we've got several different varieties of protein for you to grab. So that being said, we're going to take a quick break, like 15 minutes, okay, because they got quite a bit I want to cover in the second half, but we're going to move through it quickly. It's going to be some very good action items, and we're going to give you the layout for like a 30-day challenge to reset things that I want to encourage you all to jump on. So use the restroom. Oh, Nikki says, hold on.
Hold on. You guys are getting product. Please make sure your product sheet sheet is filled out before you come
Yes.
to the front. Second, make sure you stay because we're going to do the raffle right after the intermission. If you want to win, you have to be.
Yeah.
What would be your number?
Okay, guys, everybody good? Cool. I'm up here if you need.